Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Change Chat. This is very much an impromptu stream. I'm still getting things set up. Let me know if you can hear me. Like I said, just popping on for a little bit to say hello, check in. It's been a busy week for me. A lot of things going, a busy couple of weeks. Matter of fact, the entire month has been busy, but a lot going on, and just wanted to check in. Just got back earlier this week from Prague, was overseas. All right. Great to see you, Aaron, as always. Always appreciate the support. Loved your video earlier today. Got to see that while I was on my lunch. Really good comparison between the different styli that WeWoods has out there. As I mentioned before, I know that I've kind of walked away from that brand, but always good to see what others have going on and how you feel about it. And really excited that they sent those to you and that you didn't have to purchase those. I think, you know, the more these brands realize that they can get in front of different audiences and get creators engaged and really talking about their products, the better for them, quite frankly. Like I said, my split from WeWoods had nothing to do with the company itself as far as, you know, their communication with me. It was all in that I couldn't get the device to do what I needed it to do. And I think that's kind of a, you know, it just is what it is. My whole thing is organizing a certain way. And if I can't get a device to do that, then I'm going to either offer to give that back to the company, which I did in WeWoods' case, or I may give that to someone else who can better make use of that technology, which at the time is what I did with the Nomad by giving that to Trey. Now, I may revisit the Nomad since they're looking at really doubling down. Supernote is on the sync functionality between the devices. That wasn't something Supernote was really interested in to begin with. They wanted you to pick the right device to you, the right device for you, and stick with that device. But it seems like now they're realizing, and I think it actually shows a lot of growth on their part, that people are buying multiple devices, even though they don't encourage that. And by doing that, it allows them to be able to look at that market differently. And it is a growth area for them. So anyway, fire in some questions. I've got some new things on the horizon, some things I'm really excited about. And also just interested in your thoughts on some of the things that I've been up to and been doing. Happy to talk about Prague. I was at the International Leadership Association. I had 2 presentations there. So in my day job, very much interested in, you know, leadership. It's what my doctorate's in, but also it's what I teach. And so for me, that was a really fun and interesting conference to go to, on top of the fact that it happened to be in Prague, which is a very historic city, a lot of really cool things going on. And just being able to be there that last afternoon before I flew out was really fun and interesting to see all of that history. I mean, I was on a bridge that dates back to the 1300s, and I saw a clock that also dates back to the 1300s. So really a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, go ahead, hop into the chat. Let me know what you've got on your mind. One of the devices that I've gotten just here recently is the Pocketbook InkPad EO. Pocketbook and I kind of started a conversation. I had asked them about the ink poster because I'm very interested in Spectra 6 and where that's headed. And they said, well, we're not in a position to send those out right now for review other than the ones we've already sent out. But by the way, we have this whole Pocketbook line of tablets. And so this is the Pocketbook EO. and it's a Kaleido screen. It's a 10.3-inch device. It has a camera on the back. I'm in progress of doing the unboxing. I mean, I've done the unboxing, but of filming all of that, getting that ready to go. Very similar to like the BOOX line of products with the Kaleido screens. So far, pretty impressed with the overall device. I don't know that it's going to be the device for me, but again, it's got a lot of interesting features. It already does global handwriting. It already does split screen. It's full Android. It's Android 11, but it does have Google Play enabled. So that gives you some functionality. Seems to have a decent reader on it. And like I said, it has a camera that doesn't have an extra bump. So it's going to be really cool to see what this device has going for it. It's heavier than the BOOX device, so that's going to give it a little bit of difference, but it's all metal. Again, I'm going to have the full review, or not the full review, but the unboxing out fairly soon, hopefully by next weekend. But again, trying to catch up on a whole lot of stuff. I'm teaching and doing everything else. But what's on your minds? I know BOOX dropped the Note Air 5C, so that's a new drop that's out there. They also came out with the new version of the Palma, which looks interesting. I still wish they had gone totally with the phone if they were going to do that, but they didn't. So I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on that. Also, I've got reviews coming out on the Go 10.3, which I have. I also have reviews coming out on the Note Max, some more in-depth reviews on that. But yeah, just pop into the chat. Let me know what you're thinking, what your thoughts are. And also send out a post that I have the TCL Next Paper 60 coming. So that's a phone that has that adaptive RLCD it's not RLCD, that adaptive LCD technology that's supposed to try to mimic e-ink. I don't think I've seen any review that says it truly does that, but it does have a different look and feel to it. So they're sending me one of those as well. But again, pop into the chat. Let me know what you're thinking, what you've got going on. I see I've got 4 of you or 5 of you in here right now as concurrent. But this is a Q&A. I'm just waiting on Melissa to get back. They're out shopping right now, and they're going to be back here in a little while. But since I had some time and really wanted to, just kind of touch base. Again, it's always one of those things that you when you're doing this as a hobby like I am, you run out of time. So obviously, primary job comes first, secondary job comes second, which is my teaching. And then there's life and family. So there's a lot of things happening. So Manish Patel, let me know if I said that correctly. So many options. Have you come anything that beats the Supernote for organizing, which has the best to-do task manager? So to answer that question, the answer is no. I have not run across anything yet to me that beats the Supernote for organization. But a lot of that has to do with the way I organize things and the things that I do. So I want to be very clear about that. Anything I'm doing is through the lens of what I do and how I engage with the technology. Learned something today from Jeff, which, Jeff Moss is a good friend of mine, and I'm always learning something new from him, from Aaron, from Vlad, different people in the space, Kit and Voya. And, occasionally I know something more than they do, and other times they know something more than I do. And with Jeff, he pointed out the difference between tags or keywords on all the different platforms. And what I did not realize was that BOOX ties and highlights. And I had always assumed that Supernote tied it to the text because you selected the text. But then I went back and I tested that a little bit over lunch, and it really doesn't. It ties it to the page. That was a learning curve for me. So if you move that page anywhere, that relationship is maintained. If you move that text, I had always thought that moved the keyword. Now, I haven't tested it on books yet to see if it breaks the tagging function if you move a block of text that you've called a tag. But if it doesn't, or if it doesn't break the connection, then Books may have the best tagging system out there. And Aaron has always been very supportive of the Books tagging system. On the to-do list side, I think that right now none of them are perfect. I think that Supernote probably has the best, but it's only in the fact that it's self-contained and you can create the to-do, it ties it to the note, and then you can go between the to-do and the note, but it doesn't highlight those. It doesn't give you a text that you can click off. I think iFlyTech, which I don't own that device, might have a better way of doing that, at least from what I've seen from David over at Tablet Tech and from Jeff Moss. But again, it's not as unified as the way Supernote does it. The circling, you set it, it takes you to an actual task manager that you can, with that to-do app, you can categorize, create new lists, do all of those different components, but it's not as seamless of an integration. I really wish they allowed you to tick off those tasks within a note. That would be a really good way to do that. You can always go back after you've ticked off the task in the to-do list and access your old notes, which is really cool. But it's just a different workflow. So yeah, Manish, thank you so much for the question. I think that's a great one. Anyone else? Pop in, ask questions, let me know your thoughts. What are your thoughts on some of these new devices? Do you really think the Note Air 5C is as cool as it looks? The Note Air 4C right now is traveling. It's over with Trey. And I had somebody in the comments ask me if we're going to have another roundtable, Trey and I, on devices, and I think we will. At least that's the hope here soon. And hopefully we'll be able to get that set up and doing that. But the Note Air 5C is intriguing, not because it looks like a much better device spec-wise than the Note Air 4C, but it's almost like, and this is very much a lay opinion because I'm not as well-versed as Kit and some of the others in the BOOX devices. I'm getting there. But the idea that the Tab Ultra C Pro appeared to be kind of ahead of its time in some ways because it was the full package keyboard case, kind of productivity tablet type thing, but it really didn't have the ability to be as portable or as light or as nimble as the Note Air 4C. So I think what might have happened here is they learned a lesson and they popped out to where now the Note Air 4C or the Note Air 5C has a keyboard case, has a keyboard folio to mimic the Ultra C Pro, but still maintains the base format and file of the 5C. So that's my thought on it. Now, again, I don't know if I'm right about that. So anybody who's a big BOOX user, let me know. But that's what I think they're going for. They're like, you know what? The Ultra C Pro didn't really, spec-wise gain the traction we wanted it to. We've got a better screen on the 4C, so let's go ahead and jump in and make a 5C that combines the best of both. But let me know what you think about that. David says, and welcome, David. Good to see you, my friend. I was talking about you a little earlier. The iFlyTech allows you to write and circle next to the line in your notes and adds it to your to-do app within schedule. It also allows you to touch it off in the note itself. Yeah, and that's what we were kind of talking about was I think they might, and that's what's interesting about all these platforms. So I'd really like some feedback on that too. There is no perfect platform. The perfect platform for me right now is the Supernote. It does all of the things I need it to do and many things that I don't need but I like. And it's always been that platform for me. It does all of the base use case stuff that I need, and it always has. So the reason I waited and bought it was because it did everything. Remarkable didn't do enough. Books did too much, things I didn't need. And then eventually I settled and I got to what I needed to have happen. So, and then everything else is add-on. Everything else is gravy, as we say in the South and the Midwest. And so for me, that's a big point. Get the device you need for what it does right now. That being said, there's no perfect device. So you have devices out there that do some things exceedingly well. The WeWoods device does an exceedingly good job in the daily, especially after they fixed that craziness that was all of your calendar events replicating if you had multiple calendars. It was borderline unusable for me when I first got that connected because I'd have the same event listed 5 times. They fixed all that. So now the daily really is one of the best apps out there for the calendar management. But their notes management to me just isn't there. Even with this pocketbook, although I just started using it, it doesn't have a calendar feature that's on par with the WeWoods, nor does it appear yet to have tags or any kind of features that would compete directly with Books or with Supernote. But it does have basic file folders. So you can add folders within folders and you can do some things there. So it's going to be interesting to see how that evolves over time and whether it gets there and whether it's able to really do what someone might need it to do. Now, for some people, that's going to be fine. And if all they want to do is take notes and store those notes within folders and folders, and they don't really need tags and they don't need headings or anything that's more robust than that, same with the WeWoods, that might work for you. For my system, it doesn't work. It's not going to work, and I'm not going to be able to shoehorn it into making work. I could take a Books device and make it do 99% of the note-taking side of what Supernote does. Still wouldn't get the digest, still wouldn't get a lot of the other features I personally rely on to be able to make that work. So it's going to be interesting to see what these companies do because they're all in this race to try and add features. And I've given WeWoods some grief because I don't see them as being as innovative as people are giving them credit for, because a lot of the things they're rolling out are just parody. And I get that they're, younger, but a lot of these features aren't new. So again, the way tags are handled at the page level, not new with Books or Supernote. Like I said, I learned that it's not the text, it's actually the page level on Supernote. Headings, not new on Supernote. Books, outlines fairly new, so you wouldn't count that in. But a lot of their other features were already there. And, even with the AI features, I just don't see it being better necessarily in some ways than some of the other devices. So it really comes down to what you're comfortable with, what's easier for you to use. The idea that the Notes app in Books when it launched was still good, even though it's gotten better. The Supernote Notes app, very good and has gotten better. WeWoods, okay, but file structures and some of the other things are just too much friction for me. So agree, disagree, jump in, let me know. I know that a lot of people aren't as keen as I am, or not as keen, aren't as upset as I am with some of the missing features and tools on the WeWoods. And again, it's not shade on the company. They're doing what they can, but whether or not they're going to be able to keep up or adjust accordingly is really going to depend on whether they listen and try to implement things. And Jay has been very, vocal as well on some of the things they're saying are difficult or impossible to implement really aren't, because everybody else does that in some way. So it's going to be interesting. But David, what do you think? We've got 8 of you in here right now, or 6 right now, I think. Let me know what you think. Jump in. Aaron, let me know if I'm way off base. I know that you and I go back and forth on the different tool sets. And, I agree with you that you want to use the tools on device. The big thing for me is making sure you make the right decision before you purchase so that you can maximize those tools. And that's always been my big thing, because I've bought one device in my entire tenure of buying devices for this purpose, and that's the Supernote. And it actually was the A5X, because I knew it could be my one device, because I couldn't afford to buy multiples. And I think that if that's your use case, then it's very important that that's where you go and what you do. But what about some other things? Are you excited? Do you have questions, things you want me to explore on the Pocketbook? One thing I did notice is it's fairly high priced, still not much more than the AI paper, but it's a 10.3 screen. It does have color. It's running an older version of Android. It's not as high a resolution. It's not the 1300 Carta 1300 screen. So there are going to be trade-offs, but I'm curious what you all think and the questions you have on the different devices out there. It is EMR, so it works with any stylus, and so does WeWoods. So very interested to see how that develops. Now, WeWoods does have its own proprietary nibs, and the new ceramic nib was really interesting for me to see when you demoed that, Aaron, earlier today. I still, because I don't need a button or an eraser because of the gestures on the Supernote, I like the Heart of Metal pen. It looks like a better pen. But I definitely agree with you. I didn't have the ceramic WeWood stylus, but I did have the W2 stylus, and I think it's a solid upgrade over the original one they launched with, primarily because of that texture on the outside and the weighting, which I think you nailed in your video. 100% agree with that. I don't agree it's worth the $99 unless you really need the button and the eraser on there. That's just my personal viewpoint, because you can get a Supernote stylus cheaper if you're going to go ceramic, and if you believe there's no possibility of it scratching or damaging the screen, which I think is pretty much settled on the glass screens. The plastic ones I'm a little more concerned about. I think if that's your use case, you might be better off to buy an HOM or a Heart of Metal 2 pen and use it on your device. But that's just me. But what other questions do you all have or comments? Again, it's kind of an open discussion tonight. So if you're interested in more information on Prague, we can talk about that. We can talk about the state of ink. We can talk about the TCL Next paper phone that I've got coming in the next little bit. We can talk about the different frames that are out there. So I've got the Alluratech over there. I also have the different frames here that are, we'll go ahead and have this change really quick and I'll show that. So this is the reTerminal. I got the color version, and I'm going to be doing more discussion on that as well. But you'll be able to see here really quickly that this is the color version, and it's the same picture that I'd had in black and white on the other one. But let me go ahead and let me switch it again, and we'll look at this really quickly while we're talking. I really like this picture on it. This is an AI generated picture, and please be aware of the flashing if you're looking at this. But when this pops up, the blues are really vibrant on the C. So when this pops up, you're going to see that. That is a beautiful picture, at least to me. So let me know what you think. That's the reTerminal, and it's the same one, only it's the color version of it. I like it a lot. It's kind of some improvement on the terminal software. Well, not improvement. I'm still thinking about putting my terminal software on there, but it's built similarly to the terminal, and you can run that on there. All right, we've got some comments. So David says, my favorite stylus to use with the BOOX Note Max is the WeWoods W1. Fantastic experience. Ordered the newer one after watching Aaron's video. That's interesting. That just shows you how different people are, because I actually liked, well, I don't like the original WeWoods stylus that much. I don't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I like the BOOX stylus better because of the weighting. That's why I liked it better, because it was weighted. For me, it felt better. I even like it better than the Pro BOOX pen, which I don't like as much as their standard pen. So that just shows you everybody's different. And it looks like David also says that he needs to try it with the 10.3. Absolutely. I think that's going to be really interesting over time as you try these out on different devices. And then Aaron says the W2 is nice, Dave. I do agree. I think that if they're sending that with the device from the Jump, which I think, Aaron, you mentioned that you think this will be their new standard stylus that they send out with the device. If that's the case, then I think it's going to be really important. At least in my estimation, because it's a solid upgrade for that. Purchasing it outright, not sure whether that's or not. And David said you sold him. There was a great video, and you know what? I appreciate the honesty, and not I don't want to say honesty, but the authenticity at the end when you realized that you'd had your mirrored glasses on, and put that at the end of the video. To me, you all know, you've talked to me a bit. There are those times when you're a creator or you're making a video and you realize you really screwed something up. And for me, the biggest ones are when I forget to record my audio or forget to hit the live button that turns on the audio. And I've recorded this whole video and I think I've nailed it and I've gotten there, and all of a sudden I've got no audio. I got 20 or 30 minutes worth of footage and no audio. So Aaron, definitely feel your pain when it comes to that. Have never had the issue with glasses. I mean, I do have the issue with glasses because no matter what glasses you have, you get those reflections sometimes. And I think that's a big deal. And David says it's not the weight, it's the writing feel. That's why I ordered the newer one. Okay. So again, it goes back to, what are the things about the writing experience and the things about the styli that really resonate with you. And I think that's a big point. It's something that's really important to think about when you're selecting a product. And then Aaron says it should be the new standard pen since it's the same price as the W1. Well, Aaron, I thought you said the W1 was $79 and the W2 was $99, or was that the W2 is $79 and the ceramic's $99? Let me know. Again, I haven't priced them since I originally looked at them, but I think what I said at the end there is what you actually mentioned. And David says Aaron always has, after video, hidden gems. I bet almost everyone clicks away when he shows the Hoods logo at the end, but if you stay tuned, there's always a bonus. Yeah, I think his logo, and I think we all, it's fun. I enjoy when the missus comes on and says something at the end, or when he says something at the end. But this one in particular really hit home with me because it's that authentic, not that you're ever inauthentic, but that real disappointment of, I did this thing and I made this mistake and it bothered me so much I had to come on and tell you about it. Those are, to me, what set some creators apart, and really give you that understanding that, this is a labor of love. This is hard. This isn't easy to do. And when it's not your full-time gig, when it's not your full-time thing, it's even more frustrating, because every moment you're spending is really kind of, it's taking away from something else. It's taking away from free time. It's taking away from rest. It's taking away from doing other things. So for me, that's a big deal. Hey, Parm, good to see you, Parmesan. Thanks for jumping in. Yeah, the Ceramics 99. Appreciate that. As I was playing that back in my head, it made me think about it and really kind of, try to remember back to what Aaron was saying. Yeah, that's a good question, David. I don't know where the hoods come from on Aaron's videos for the logo. I think it's interesting how we all came up with our different logos. For mine, it was real easy because Melissa came up with it. I didn't have to put the work into that. And it was the idea of a chameleon, because I talk about change and organizational change and leading change and just change dynamics. And what does a chameleon do? It changes based on its surroundings. So she came up with that, and that's where Agent 1820 came from. So yeah, it's an interesting way of thinking about it. And thank you all for dropping things into the chat. Thanks for being engaged. Thanks for supporting me and having this conversation. I really appreciate it. But what else is there? So, we're up to 9 now. So there's 9 of you in here. And it would be really interesting and I think helpful for everybody. For those of you who weren't here at the beginning, just a quick recap on some of the things that I'm going to have upcoming. We're going to continue to talk about the Supernote and the digest and some of those other components, but also I've got things in the works for the reTerminal, which I showed a little bit earlier, the 10.3, the Go 10.3, the Note Max, the new Pocketbook, InkPad EO, which I showed a little bit ago. Also, the Quirky Toys 10th edition QWERKYWRITER. So the anniversary edition QWERKYWRITER is going to be something I'm going to be talking about. And just in playing with it and doing things with it, it's been really fun. It really feels, if you're as old as I am, like an old school typewriter. The one thing it misses is the sound, but depending on what device you're using, you can mimic that sound. So that's kind of neat. Again, especially for those of us who grew up in a certain time period. So I'm really getting used to it and enjoying it. And then I've got the TCL Next paper coming out as well, or being sent to me hopefully within the next week. Oh, his logo. Okay. For some reason I thought his new logo had hoods on it, but maybe not. I was trying to remember. The logo looked different this time than it did on the previous podcast. So Aaron, tell us what you changed your logo, maybe what that's all about, or just explain it in your next video, get some extra views. So, but I do believe it was different this time than before. So maybe that's a little different, or maybe that's just something I imagined, but it did look different to me. So what else? What else out there? What else has you excited? What other types of devices are you interested in? What do you all think about the new Palma? I still think it's a misstep for BOOX to not have that be a phone if they're going to go all in on it, on that size segment. But I could be wrong about that. I mean, I think their cachet would really lend to that being an interesting device, more so than the Big Me. I am a little disappointed that they went with the capacitive stylus. I do believe that it's with the Inkspire pen, though, which seems to be better from all accounts than the InkSense, which is the one that they were using on the Go 7. So I'm kind of hoping that it's going to be a better experience than what you got with the Go 7. At least that's my initial impression. But I don't think you're going to use it as a note taker. I think it would be a nice to have if you had a case and wanted to be able to write something down really quickly or jot it down. Very similar to the Paper Pro Move, but the Paper Pro Move is actually a better size for that. So to me, it's kind of an interesting, if you're not going to go phone, I don't know that I would want a reader in that size format. I think if I wanted a reader, I would want something in the 7-inch or in the Paper Pro Move size at the bare minimum, which I've heard the reading experience. I mean, I know that, David, you did a ton of discussion about how to make the reader better. But again, having to use Calibre to do that is going to be, there's a lot of work involved to make that work, whereas something like BOOX has the Neo reader, which does that very well. And even the Supernote has a decent reader. It's not near what the Neo reader is, but it has a lot of the same functions to be able to adjust margins and all of those different things in a really easy way until you start writing on it. Then that changes that dynamic up a little bit. And Parm says, have any of you guys heard anything about BOOX fixing the ghosting issues on the Note Max? Kid did an updated top 10 a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned, yeah, I don't know on that, Parm. And I appreciate the question, because to me, that's the biggest downside of the Note Max. It's not a huge downside to me because I've got it set up with a gesture to auto refresh. And then I've also got it on the nav ball to auto refresh. So it's not a deal breaker for me in any stretch, but it's an issue. I mean, you can definitely see it. So it's not something that is, you're unaware of as you're using the device. It's just how much does it really bother you? And my issue is they have BOOX Super Refresh technology on that. So it's not supposed to have that issue. And the Go 10.3 doesn't really have a bad issue with it. So I don't understand I don't understand why it's having so many issues unless there's something in the panel. And if it's in the panel, then what are they going to do? I mean, they're replacing kits because he's a reviewer. And what about the people who've purchased this thing or the other reviewers who have them? But first and foremost, the people who've purchased it, is this going to be a voltage issue that they can program remotely through a software fix? I don't know. Is it something that's in the panel itself? If that's the case, are they going to do some kind of a recall or at least offer the opportunity for people to send it back and have it replaced with a new panel? I think they would almost need to make it work right, but Remarkable didn't do that with the yellowing that they'd had. Amazon did do it with the issues they had with the ColorSoft, but I think I don't know. I wish I had an answer to that. David says you need to use Calibre to adjust PDF files, but on the Move you can adjust EPUB files, view settings on the device itself. Okay, yep, sorry for that misunderstanding. I still haven't heard it's a great experience, but I get the difference there. I think that's where their PDF reader, especially on the Remarkable, falls down a little bit because it's just not the best experience. But appreciate that clarification that what you were doing was a PDF file, not an EPUB. And this is, sorry, I can't, I'll just put my mutant. I'll just stop there. Kind of passing through. Is this a channel about tablet computers? It's more about organization and how you would use e-ink devices in particular, but also different programs, computer software programs to better keep yourself organized. A lot of that does center around e-ink tablets specifically, primarily because I believe that writing things down is a better way to deal with that, and a better way to, and there have been proven connections that if you handwrite things, it tends to make a more or a stronger connection with your neural pathways. But a lot of different things here. And Parm says, it honestly feels like the ghosting is worse on the Note Max than it is on the Go 10.3. I put up with it because I love the size. No, I think you're 100% right, Parm. I think that the ghosting is worse on the Note Max than it is on the 10.3. 100% agree with that. I've noticed it. It's definitely a thing. It's one of those things that I don't understand why, especially since the 10.3 doesn't have the BSR and the Note Max does. It just seems very strange to me. Now, once you refresh, that 300 PPI on that large screen is beautiful. So it's going to be, I think, very interesting to see what they do about that ghosting issue, because it's a known issue. Kit hasn't been quiet about it. Kit also hasn't been quiet about the fact that he still doesn't have his back. He updates us all the time on that, and I don't understand why they aren't putting some priority around that, because he's one of the bigger voices out there that covers BOOX products, and the fact that he's not able to because he can't even show it is a big deal. You would think they would want that information out there. So, well, everybody, this has been a kind of a quick jump on, say hello, update you all on what I've been up to, let you know that I haven't forgotten about the channel. I'm still doing things. I'm throwing out a few shorts here and there, but for the most part, I'm really getting back into the groove of it. Been traveling internationally, and I want to get, and I'm catching up on schoolwork and some other things that I've got to do for my main job. As soon as all of that's in the rear view, you'll see more content coming out, and hopefully we'll be able to keep moving in the right direction. We're approaching 3,500 subscribers, so pretty cool on all of that. Thank you all so much for the support. One last thing before I hop off of here. You all know I launched a store a while back with different merchandise. I'm going to be shuttering that. It's quite frankly, I've only had very few purchases, and it costs money to run something like that. Shopify is not free. Printful is not free. So what we're going to do is we're going to shutter that for now. Maybe sometime in the future we'll revisit that. But it's one of those things that if there's not a demand for it, I can find other ways to spend some of the money that comes through the channel to really enhance the user experience. I mean, I have the prompter right here, which helps me. I'm also looking into maybe some better streaming tools to help make the live streams even better. And, just different things, some of the microphones and lighting that I've already upgraded. I don't have a ton to still upgrade, but something that maybe will make the experience better for everyone. But until next time, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thanks for being here. Drop comments if you still have some down or if you have any other questions or comments, drop them down in the comments after we're done. Parm, for one last thing, says on multiple occasions I've done refreshes from the nav ball or the menu, it'll refresh. Yeah, there's a lot of good ways to get that ghosting off of there, but it's something they need to fix. But thank you all again. Stop by anytime. Check out my other videos if you haven't here recently. There's some content that's out there. It's doing fairly well. Be on the lookout for these new devices, these new discussions. And if you haven't signed up for the online class, please feel free to go to my Patreon page and take a look at that. If you're a YouTube member, or if you're a YouTube insider or an insider on Patreon, you get a discount. If you sign up for the supporter tier on Patreon, you get the course currently while it's being developed for free. So as part of that monthly subscription. So until next time, everybody, have a great one. Keep moving forward, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Talk to you soon. Have a good one.